Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Cucchiara, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Cucchiara.
Welcome in, Joe Cucchiara with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that continue to tune in and join our show. We, again, ever since the pandemic, we are trying to do 2 or 3 podcasts a week. Some with guests and some without guests. And we're going to have a special show starting today, and I'll make that kind of update, and I'll give everyone an update on that in just a minute. Just a reminder, for more information, you can find us at RERL-1743. You can download the podcast there, or Stitcher, iTunes, any of those normal places. Just a reminder for those that just may be tuning in for the first time or just downloading the podcast for the first time. I've been doing the live radio and podcast now for 11 years and over 15,000 interviews and shows, and we have conducted them. We're proud of that. Our focus is to educate and inform the consumer. So that's what we do. We've done for 11 years. And the objective is always to pass that information along and help educate and inform our consumers. Now, the majority of our show really is focused in and around real estate. However, over the last several years, we've launched more of a community-related show. And what I mean by that is, just to explain in more detail, is certainly our show primarily is about real estate, what's going on in the real estate market, but we also do a lot of shows is related to the community, giving back segments. We have charity groups come on. We have legal groups. We have a lot of different things to educate the consumer for what's going on in the community. And so today's show, I'm happy to announce and excited to announce that for the next 60 days, starting today, our focus is going to be on helping small business. What do I mean by that? Well, most of you know, ever since the pandemic, there's been an up and down roller coaster ride for these poor businesses, small businesses primarily, and they've been hurt the most. Let's face it, large business has a lot more capital, they have more backing, they have more political power, they have more influence in Washington, D.C., etc. And so what happens is, most of us may or may not know this, is that the majority of the damage done by the pandemic, the shutdowns, the indecisiveness, our government, agencies, the wishy-washiness of the way they operate, ultimately what has happened is had a negative result on small business. And, restaurants, but they're all their small business. Gyms, studios, salons, I could go on, barbershops, all these places have been drastically affected by these shutdowns. And yet again, here, they're shutting everybody down again, effective, I believe it is today in most counties of California. I'm specifically speaking to California. Our show is broadcasted in Northern California, that for those that follow us in the Silicon Valley area. And so we want to try to do as much as we can. Obviously, we're one show and I'm one person, but I am committed to doing this over the next 60 days. And so here's the commitment, and here's what my plan is, and here's what I want to do. I want to try to focus on having 2 or 3 business owners on the show each week. I'll interview these business owners. I'll try to get the message out. We'll hear their concerns, their real concerns. We'll try to find out how we can help them, and we'll pass that information along so that we do our part to help these small businesses as much as we can. Again, it's only one company, one podcast, one person at a time, but we'll do that and do as much as we can. I think the key here, most of you know, most of us get caught up in this trap, and I do it myself, and I'm guilty of it, so I'm going to try to do what I can here today. And that is, we think, well, what can I really do? What can one person do? Well, one person could do a lot. And when you think about that, when you have that mindset that I am one person, but when I do this podcast, just for those that know, on average, we get somewhere between 12 and 15,000 downloads a month on this podcast. So yes, I'm only one person, one voice, but if I could help, a dozen, 20, 30, 40 plus businesses by getting the message out, by allowing these voices to be heard. That's a great benefit to this economy and the benefits to these small businesses and these small companies. So that's what I'm going to do. So as you're listening to this podcast, what I want to do is I'm going to give you a summary of the outline of these shows, what our plan to do, what our goals and objectives are. But what I'd like you to do is reach out to me and email me or call me. Again, if you go to RERL-1743 RERL-1743, you can find my contact information. What I like to do for those that know anyone that are running small businesses or need help or would love some free publicity in terms of just getting their message out. What I want to do is I want to get these business owners on. I want to ask them about their challenges, what they're up against, how we could help. Are there any committees we could do? Are there any fundraisers? Are there any GoFundMe programs? What can we do to help these small businesses? So that's the goal and objective. So if you have a friend, family member, anyone that you know that's running a small business, contact me, give me their information, or even better, do an email introduction if you want. My email, which you could find on the website, is joe@reradiolive.com. That's joe@reradiolive.com. What you could do is you could do an email introduction. You could tell the person that you heard my podcast and you know that I'm trying to showcase small business owners and try to get as much as support in the community as we can. You could do it that way. You could also reach out to me by cell phone at area code 408-838-9060. Again, that's area code 408-838-9060. I'll give that information back out at the end of the show for those that want to use that and pass it along to people they may know to try to help them. So just as a quick summary, I'll tell you, most of us would probably admit that we really have COVID fatigue. And I think most of us would also admit, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but let me give you my philosophy and my take here, if you would please. So we're all fatigued, but we're also all Americans. What that means is that we're all fighting for the same thing. And that is to bring this company and this country back together and get back to business and life as normal. We realize that's going to take time. Thank goodness the vaccine is on its way. I think most of us, in my opinion, this is my opinion, our hearts go out to those that have lost their lives and lost their loved ones and families as it relates to COVID. I don't think anybody in the right mind would say this is not real, it doesn't exist, and they're not so cold-hearted to say that. I think most of us would admit this is terrible. This is uncharted territory. These are things that we haven't been faced with at any time in our life. And people are trying to do the best they can. That, I think, most common, intelligent people could agree upon. I really believe that. Here is where I think we're making a big mistake within our government agencies and our county and state agencies and city agencies, is that it's turned political, unfortunately, and now it's this, who favors what, whose decision means what, and there's a lot of back and forth with, in many cases, no science. And I think most of us would agree, and I'm not an expert, but this is what I know. So far, no one that I know of, and I bring it to my attention if you could produce the science and the data that would say that shutting down outside dining is the smart thing to do because it's devastating and it's bad for someone's health. Now, within regulations, right? So within parameters, which means you separate the tables, you have people wear masks, the waiters wear masks, the cooks wear masks. We know that responsible organization in which that format works. We get that. I think the frustration that is really boiling over with most people and small business owners is that there is no science with this. The first time around, I think most of us would agree, we went along. We listened to these people. We said, okay, we want to be a team player. I want to listen to my governor. I want to listen to my mayor. I want to listen to my city council person. I want to find out what I could do to do my part to save as many lives as I can and get us back on track. Most of us, I think, would say that. That was round one. We're in round 2 or 3 now. And I think most people are fed up because a lot of these decisions being made make no sense. They make no sense. They're making decisions, when I say they, politicians, governors, mayors, they're making decisions based on their personal views and what they may or may not think. So most people now are thinking, wait a minute, I went through this before. I understand. It is devastating. It breaks our heart to see people lose their lives. It breaks our heart to see these loved ones that are suffering now and struggling because they lost these people they care deeply about. Most of us feel that way. But we have to approach this logically too. And that's where every single voice matters. Just like a vote, every single vote matters. Every single voice matters. And so what I want to do with this podcast, starting today, I'll get it out, I'll distribute it to all the different places when we close up and we post it today. For the next 60 days, basically roughly through the first week in February, we will look to interview 2 to 3 business owners or operators a week on this podcast, with our main objective is to get their message out, let them be heard. How could we help? And we're going to do our part. I'm going to do my part in trying to do that. Now, does it mean that other businesses don't need help? No, that's not the case, but we can only do what we could do. The last thing I will say is I think what's confusing to people as well, without spending much time on all the back and forth here, how logically, I think this is what really is bringing people to a boiling point. What is the logic of allowing a Home Depot, a Best Buy, a Walmart, I could go on, a Target, to stay open when millions of people visit these stores a day? But yet you shut down small businesses that are practicing safe activities in and around the COVID process. It's maddening, and I could understand why small businesses specifically are concerned. They've had enough and they're trying to do what they can. So we're going to do what we can as much as we can. So this show that I will dedicate the next 60 days to nothing but trying to help small business. Typically we do 3 podcasts a week. Again, we get anywhere from 12 to 15,000 downloads a month. So that's a great reach to start. Hopefully we could grow that and get the message out. Primarily, the majority of our listeners are in Northern California, although we have several in California in general and other states as well. So let me just repeat my focus, my objective, and what I'd like to achieve over the next 60 days. And I want to ask you, the person listening to this podcast right now, please take this personal. We are trying to do whatever we can for the small business owners in our communities. And I'll just say California, it doesn't matter. Certainly we're in Northern California and Silicon Valley. We want to help people here, but we also want to help people anywhere in California. So this just doesn't apply to Northern California. So this is my plea, and this is my question to you, and this is my request to you as you're listening to this podcast or viewing it on Facebook or any social media sites. Number one, if you know of a business owner or someone that you think could benefit from getting them exposure on this podcast to find out what we could hear, their hardship, what they're going through, how we could help, please make an introduction. You could go to my website, reradiolive.com, or you could also email me, joe@reradiolive.com. Either way, or you could call me, 408-838-9060. Give me a call. Let's see. I know I'm not going to have a problem booking guests. I can tell you that right now. I'm not going to have a problem. The reason I'm putting this out, if I wanted to, I could get on the phone and fill the podcast up in the next couple of weeks. But I don't want this to be some exclusive backroom deal. I want this to go out to the public that has been kind enough and generous enough to listen to my podcasts over the last 10 years. And I want to give an opportunity to people to call me, email me, reach out to us, and see how we could help. So before I close it out, again, main objective, how can we help? This is Calling All Small Business. We want to help. The way we're going to do that, Joe Cucchiara and Real Estate Radio Live are going to broadcast for the next 2 months exclusively 3 times a week with business owners. We're going to highlight and focus these business owners. We're going to find out how we can help these business owners. We're going to find out what we could do to support them in any way we can with what we have to work with. And that is my focus, and that is my goal. For the last time, again, if you know anyone, a business owner, operator, and you think they could help, you think we could help them, a couple different ways to contact us. Go to RERL-1743. That's RERL-1743. Submit some information, contact us that way. You could email me, joe@RERL-1743, or you can call or text 408-838-9060. Please do whatever you can. And maybe it's not even introducing a business owner. Maybe you listen to this podcast and all of a sudden it really resonates with you, and you go to town, or you go downtown, or you go somewhere to a restaurant, or you go to a small business, and you find out, you walk through the door and you find out what you could do for that person. This is just one way. It's that old saying, if all of us really do our part, we can make a difference. And that's including me. I'm fortunate enough to have the ability to have this podcast for the last 11 years. I have thousands and thousands of followers. I hope that I could use that now to benefit the community, to help humankind, to help small business get back on their feet, or at least give them some staying power until this thing turns back around. So I want to thank you for listening today. I want to thank you for your attention. I want to thank you for everything you've done or about to do. Please reach out, support your local small business. This podcast, again, is focused on calling all small business. We're here to help, and we're going to do the best we can over the next 60 days. Take care, and thank you again for tuning in. For more information, you could always reach us at RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Thanks again for tuning in and your attention. Take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.